as I said, all these stories, stories of the prison. I did say when we were coming round that we've had a few escapes from the prison. One notorious one was way back in 1966, and he is still the only man who's ever escaped from Dartmoor prison and not been recaptured. And his name was Frankie the Mad Axeman Mitchell. Now, he got that little nickname because he broke out of a prison up in Manchester once, and while he was trying to escape, he got into an old couple's house and he tried to steal food and clothing and things like that. The old couple surprised him, and the first thing he did was pick up an axe and wield it at them, but he never touched them. He'd never killed anybody in his life, Frankie Mitchell, but of course the next day the paper's headlines, Frankie the Mad Axeman Mitchell. Well, at that time he was involved with a couple of people in London called the Krays. I don't know whether you've ever heard of the Kray twins. They were notorious gangsters in London in the 50s, 60s. Last one died a couple of years ago. And he got caught again, and he got put up here in Dartmoor. They thought he'd never escape from here. But the Krays helped him to escape. And the reason they helped him to escape was because he knew a lot about their business activities. So they helped him to escape. And the reason he's never been recaptured is that once he'd escaped, they killed him and buried him under the M1. So that's the only one we know of that never got recaptured. Again, stories of the moor. There's old Crocker. I'll mention Crocker. We've got a tour just at the back here, Crocker Tour, and it's said that it's haunted by an old man who used to try and farm it, and he's known as Old Crocker, and it said he rides out on a fiery horse with a big sabre and chases anybody off Crocker Tour who's trying to do anything to it, like dig on it or anything like that. And it's said that back in about 1800 a farmer came down from up in Manchester way, the north of England, and he decided he was going to just fence off part of Crocker Tour and farm it. And old Crocker didn't like this, and when he was told what was happening, he said, if he scratches my back, I'll rip his pocket out. Well, this guy tried to farm for 2 years and eventually went back to Manchester completely broke, no money at all. Old Crocker had ripped his pocket out. There's a place just off the moor called Bury Pomeroy Castle. Now, this is said to have been haunted for many, many years. The Bury Pomeroys were a big family a long time ago on the moor, and they built themselves a castle. They had big estates. But one of the Bury Pomeroys was a nasty man, and he got one of the young girls in the castle in the family way, as it were, and the lady killed herself and the baby. Very sad event. But ever since then, there's been the story of the lady in grey, or the grey lady. And back in about 1820, I think it was, there was a young doctor down here called Robert Farquhar, and he'd been called out to the Bury Pomeroy Castle. The steward at the time, his wife was sick, so he needed to see her. So he was put into this ante-room. And while he stood in there, a bit miffed that he'd been kept waiting, the door opened and a lady walked through, wringing her hands, very agitated, and she went straight past him, totally ignored him, went to the bottom of some stairs and walked up them. And he thought no more of it, and then he came, went and saw the steward's wife, and he said, oh, she's pretty ill, yeah. She said, I'll treat her now and I'll have to come back tomorrow. So he goes back the next day, and he sees the wife, and he says, oh, she's much improved, she's going to be fine. He said, I won't need to see her again. He said, oh, by the way, I meant to mention yesterday, he said, while I was down in the ante-room, this lady came through, a young lady, very agitated, and walked past me and straight up some stairs. And the steward said, oh my God, my wife's going to die. He said, what are you talking about? I've just told you, she's fine, she's going to get better in a couple of days. He said, no, she's not. You've seen the grey lady, she's going to die. And he said, I don't believe you. So he walked away. By noon she was dead. And it's said that any time that lady is seen, someone who's living in the castle will die. Now that could be just a good story, couldn't it? However, if I tell you that Robert Farquhar went on to become the personal physician of Queen Victoria, it gives him a bit of credence, doesn't it? I don't know, whatever you believe. We've also got a story, another black dog story here. A guy called Lewis used to live on the moor, about 6 miles away from here, and he was a weaver, and he was a very good weaver, and he was at his loom all day, clack 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 clack, weaving away. One day he died, sat at his loom. And his son came to visit him and he found him, sat at the loom dead. So the son went off to the local vicar, local church, and got the funeral arranged. And they got all that sorted, got the funeral done, got the man put in the earth. And the next day the son went back to his father's house to sort his effects out. When he walked in the door he heard clack clack, clack clack, clack clack, clack clack. He thought, that's strange. So he went up the stairs to the loom room, and there was his father, sat weaving. It frightened him to death, and he ran down the stairs, went and got the local vicar again, told him what had happened. He said, I'll deal with this. So the vicar left the church, and as he was leaving, he stooped down, picked up a handful of consecrated earth. When he got back to the house, he walked in the door, and he could hear this clack clack, clack clack, clack clack, and he shouted, Lewis! Come down! Your time's done. Your weaving days are over. So Lewis came down the stairs. As he got to the bottom of the stairs, he threw the consecrated earth into his face. And he turned into a big black dog, as you do. That wasn't the end of it. The vicar then took the dog onto the moor, and he found a pond that was fed by a little waterfall. And he gave the dog a half a walnut shell with a hole in the bottom. And the penance was the dog had to empty the pool. So if you go up onto the moor these days, about 6 miles away from here, and you go near this pool, you'll see a big black dog going, oof, like this, trying to empty this pool. One more story for you.